Again, welcome to those who've just joined us to the Master of Animation and Visualization webinar here at UTS, run by Animal Logic Academy. I'm going to hand over to our presenters and panelists in just a moment, but first I'd like to pay my respects to the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, upon whose ancestral land our city campus now stands. I'd also like to pay my respects to elders both past and present and acknowledge them as the true custodians of knowledge for this land. I would just like to say that we are recording the session tonight as well, to put up onto our website and to send out to both you and those who weren't able to make it this evening. But just know that none of your private information will be shared in a public facing format. And if you have any questions about that, you can reach out to us. I'd now like to hand over to our presenter tonight, Alex Waite. Alex, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you and welcome everybody. Thanks so much to coming along to this event where we will be talking about how to make a 3D animated film focusing on last year's project at the UTS Animal Logic Academy called Apart. My name is Alex Waite. I am the creative lead at the Academy, and I'm also joined here by one of last year's graduates, Naimani Niam, who was one of our lighting artists. Hi, Naimani.
Hi, everyone. I'm glad to be here.
Fantastic. So we will be taking everyone through the different departments and ways of how we made this film. And then at the end of the webinar, don't forget, we will be premiering the whole film as the online world premiere of Apart. So let's jump into it. There we are. there's our faces if you didn't see them before. I can move on because you can probably see me now. So we are the UTS Animal Logic Academy, a collaboration between UTS and Animal Logic. So I might just do a quick rundown of who we are and what we do. So we call ourselves, we working on a collaboration between UTS and animation and the industry, and trying to bridge the gap between the animation industry and the education sector, both in Australia and internationally. So to give you a bit of a sense of what we do, we thought we would show you our latest show reel. Now, for some of you, this might come through a little bit choppy, just as a warning, but you can find this on our website online. So if it does come through a little bit kind of low band, please feel free to check it out on YouTube later on. Fantastic. That's our new reel. It's pretty epic. Oops, I want to start that again. Apologies. And Naimani, have you actually seen that, the new reel?
Yeah, I think I saw it. Yeah, it looks great.
Cool. So yes, this slide, it is a boom time in the animation industry at the moment. We are in a very, very lucky, exciting period for the industry. There is a lot of work coming to Australia and internationally. There's a lot of companies, a lot of work. The industry is actually absolutely booming here, and the companies around Australia are desperate for new talent. We're in contact with them as well, and what we're trying to do is trying to help people enter the industry with all the skills that they need. Here's our team. Our team at the Academy at the moment, filled with very professional people who have come from industry. So each one of the people that you can see here does have a background in industry before coming to the Academy, and have worked on a whole host of projects at a whole range of different companies and places around the world. These are some of the titles that our staff have worked on, and we do bring this experience with us to the teaching process and to the academy members that that work with us across the year. Now, what is the Master of Animation and Visualization? Well, let me give you just a brief rundown, and then we'll get into the exciting stuff of breaking down each of the departments. Just a heads up, at the end of the webinar, there will be a period of time for a Q&A. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to either write them into the chat, and some of our lovely helpers will be there to answer them for you on the chat. But if there are some questions that everyone wants to know about as well, you can give them a thumbs up, and the questions with kind of that are upvoted the most will rise to the top, and I'll answer them for you at the end of the webinar as well. Great. So the MAV is an accelerated master's degree. Most master's degrees run for longer than a year. Ours is 1 year. It takes students from generalists to specialists over the course of the year. And what we do this by replicating industry. So we run the MAV like it is a studio. So it's 9 to 5, 5 days a week. We run the same tools, pipeline, and process as you would find in a major animation studio, so our graduates can hit the ground running. It's an intensive year, but it's a lot of fun. And you know, it's really like a year of industry experience versus kind of a year of educational experience. But hey, Naimani, did you find the same? Like, how did you find going from the MAV over to Animal Logic after you graduated?
Yeah, I was actually pretty surprised at how similar it was, and it made the transition really smooth and easy. Yeah, we kind of work with that studio like setup where we run, you know, dailies, and all the departments. So it all kind of translated to when I started working. It was very similar. Yeah, so it was a great experience.
Yeah, it's good. Good. I mean, look, that's what we hear from industry as well, that our grads kind of know what to do. To let everyone know, like we have dailies in the morning where we get together as a team, as you can see kind of here on the left, where we review work together for each department. Then in the afternoons, what's usually called rounds, and that's more sort of what you call on box or at computer, where we walk around from computer to computer and we can delve into more of the technical aspects of what's needed. And it's a really, look, it's a universal kind of process that is used in pretty much every studio around the world. And it is something that's quite unique to what we do at the Academy. So our year is broken up into 3 studios, or 3 kind of trimesters. In Studio 1, the graduate studio, it is the graduate certificate studio, the connected studio. That's where we develop kind of what we'll call pre-production. So we develop the story and other elements of the film, the project that we're going to be working on throughout the year, and get assets ready and get things ready for production. In Studio 2, the collaboration studio, or we call it the emerging tech project, we put tools down on the short film, and we work on whatever is emerging tech this year of the year. So we don't know what it's going to be next year. It could be something different. Last year, Naimani, what did we do? We did virtual production, EbSynth, and deepfake. Was there anything else? What did you do for your emerging tech project last year?
I think we used Unreal, and I think my team didn't do the deepfake stuff.
Oh, okay, no. Yeah. Well, it does change every year, doesn't it? Yeah, and because that was what was coming out last year, and this year we decided to change it again, and we actually did another short film completely Unreal, because Unreal Engine 5 just came out, and that was kind of the talk of the town, and it was very much kind of what we're hearing from industry, that they want artists to be knowledgeable about. And you know, who knows what we're going to be doing next year, but it's always something exciting. It's always the cutting edge, and we're always reflecting what industry wants of us. And then the final studio, Studio 3, the challenge studio, is where we finish up the short film. So that's really what I'd call the closest to being like production. So that's when everyone knows what we're doing. We're working on shots, we're working on assets, and that is the closest kind of simulation to being in the industry that you can get. Our grads, yes, have gone to a lot of different studios after leaving us. We do maintain a good relationship with a lot of these studios, not just within Australia, but around the world. Throughout the year, we do get industry speakers to come in and talk to our students as well on different specializations and different parts of the pipeline and process. And because of that, we kind of hold this relationship, and it allows us to get our graduates into some of these companies. There's no kind of quick stream for that, but we do work with our students to help them apply and help them get work at the end of the year. We've got some fun awards by the rookies. #1 in Australia for 3D production excellence. We have won some awards across our projects over the year as well. Past projects have gone through to different kind of festivals and have been shown at different presentation, different festivals as well. Graduate employment rate is actually really, really good. So at the moment, we're hitting 90% of our grads get work within the first, I think it's 3 to 6 months after working. Naomi, what about you? How long did it take you before you were over at Animal?
I started at Animal in January.
Okay, so you were right into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Well done, well done. Yeah, look, it is something that we're very proud of, that our grads, such a high percentage of our grads find work straight away, and it's great to see them get those jobs so quickly. And yes, 34 students and 1 short film. Here's our cohort from last year. There you are, Naomi. If anyone can notice, I think we've got someone photoshopped in one of the students from last year. But yes, the point of difference as well that we have is that at university, you often tend to work in a smaller group of about 4 to 5, and what we do here is that we do simulate industry in that it's everyone together on one project, working collaboratively and working creatively as well to output one project. And it's a lot of fun and yeah, exciting process. So let's get into it and talk about Apart. So Apart was our short film from last year, and it's a 3.5-minute film based on a sort of love story between two artists that share a studio space, and one works during the day and one works during the night. And here, what I can do is I'll play you all a quick trailer of this. And again, you can find this trailer on our website. If it does come through a bit choppy, you can go and find it there. So here we go. Brilliant. I'm actually still amazed that we delivered that. So if you think that we break the year up into 3 sections, that was actually only done in about 2/3 of the year. And it's so impressive that everything, design, storyboards, models, rig animation, rendering, lighting, the whole lot was done in effectively, sort of 9 months. I mean, it's just amazing. So yes, after this webinar, please do join us for the premiere of the entire film. You can see the link here, but that should be posted in the chat channel as well. It is a YouTube live link, so that way we can get better quality. And that will be starting exactly at 6:30. So 6:30, 6:31. Please do join us after that to see it. Or search Apart on the YouTube playlist for the Animal Logic Academy to find it there as well. Okay, so here we are. This is what we're here to talk about. Projects, movies are made by a lot of people. Some of them are made by thousands of people, and each of these all of those people are broken up into departments. And so what do those departments do? That's what we're going to be talking about today. So this also reflects how we run the MAV. Our course isn't just come in and kind of pick and choose what you want to do and jump between departments. We run the MAV like it is a job, like it's a studio. Okay, so when our graduates come to us, we ask them to apply for us for one of these departments. Okay, we like to say we don't train generalists, we train specialists, because that is what the industry is after. You need to hit your 10,000 hours as quick as you can in your chosen specialty to become as good as you can be in one of these areas. So we'll be going through each one of them. So please, if you are interested in joining us, please do keep in mind that you will be working in one of these departments, okay, not jumping around between them all and trying them, okay? We really, really do want people to come in and specialize. Okay, what do these departments do? Yes, we are looking to fill them all for next year. Okay, so story and art. Yes, Naimani is enlightening, but she actually started in the art department. Isn't that right, Naimani?
Yes, that's right.
Were you doing characters at the beginning, or were you doing more environmental work?
I think at the beginning we all had a chance to do a bit of everything, and so I did a bit of characters, environments, and sculptures as well. And then we all kind of chipped in, and we, took inspiration from each other, and that's how we kind of came to the final designs. It was very much a team effort, and I think that was a cool part of art department. How it was very we were very free to do experiment, and then we narrowed in on the ones we liked.
Yeah, I mean, it worked really, really well. I mean, the final output, obviously, as you can all see, is amazing. And the art department there's, I love pre-production. Pre-production is where there's kind of unfettered creativity. You can do anything. You can come up with anything. Any idea is good. And so what we did at the beginning, I'm just going to go back a bit. What we do at the beginning is that we come up with the story of what we're going to be working on. So the entire department comes together and we talk about story. We talk about what we want to deliver. And we do this thing called a sandbox. So last year, the sandbox was 2 characters in an urban environment, romance. And so this was the kind of story synopsis that we came up with. And we came up with this idea of these 2 artists working together in a shared space. Once the story is developed, then we move into designing the elements. So we know that, okay, we've got a studio. So it's an art studio. What is that going to look like? We have 2 characters. What are they going to look like? And one of them we wanted to be kind of a bit messier and work with steel. The other one we wanted to be a bit cleaner and work with wood. And so each one of these kind of elements and backgrounds of the characters help define the style and what they would look like. Now, this is something that you do a lot in art department. Art department is very much at the beginning of the pipeline, helping define and to create all of these different assets. Then we also created a color script. We did a storyboard, but then the color script also gives lighting an idea of what we're pointing towards. Is it daytime? Is it nighttime? Is it a warm light? Is it a cool light? And how does that affect the emotion and the feel of what is happening in the scene? So storyboards is another aspect of what happens at the beginning of the pipeline, and our art department does do that as well. For those who don't know, a storyboard is a drawn animatic. So like you can see here, but a bit rougher, a bit more sort of like hand drawn, and we put those images into edit and then play them. So we have sort of like a rough cartoon version of the whole story playing out across the sort of 3.5 minutes. And that gives us an idea about what we're looking at. We start kind of adding shots and taking away shots, and we play it for people and say, does it make sense? What didn't make sense? Why? Then we work on it again and again and again. So the story department and the art department really works a lot on this at the beginning, so that before we create anything in 3D, we know exactly what we're doing. Because once you get into 3D, things become a lot more expensive because it takes more time, whereas it's much faster to sketch something up really quickly in 2D and try many iterations of that before we lock things down. Was there any other, you did some of the color scripts as well, right, Naimani?
Yeah, I worked on the color scripts as well. There was like 4 versions, I think.
That's right, there were a few.
But it was good for lighting because we had a lot of reference to go by. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Look, they just look beautiful. They really, really do, and they just captured the you know, the whole look of the film so early on. It's just, yeah, they're great. Okay, so after story, after art department, things move into previs and layout. So there's a difference here between the two departments. Previs is basically a 3D animatic of the storyboards. It's the first time we ever see the 3D come together, and it reflects. We try and copy the storyboards exactly and see, is this possible? Can we make this in 3D? Do we need to move things around? Do we need a bigger room? Do we need a bigger sculpture? Can this work? Can the camera moves work? And again, does it make sense? I love Previs because Previs is basically storytelling and coming up with a way of visualizing story as simply and as cleanly as possible. For anyone who's interested in Previs, the key goals for Previs are people who are very, very keen storytellers, people who might want to become directors one day, people who might want to become cinematographers one day. But really the skills we're looking for Previs is that you have to be able to work fast. Okay, Previs is about doing iteration, and again, throwing out, trying it again. So this scene that I'm showing here didn't actually make it into the final film because it just didn't work. You know, it wasn't selling the emotion of what we wanted, so we threw it out. And we did many of these. And that's kind of like the fun of Previs, is that it's rough and ready and exciting and about storytelling. But you know, you have to be able to let things go as well. It's you know, a fun part of the process. Now then layout, just to go back to this, layout is another part of the pipeline that is just the camera. So if you're primarily interested in cinematography and not kind of doing all the rest, because previous artists do need to kind of do a bit of animation, do a bit of modeling, you know, build what you can to tell the story. Layout is just camera. So really it's about getting the assets from animation, the other departments, you pull it together into kind of like a scene, and then you just focus on getting the camera as good as it can be for the other departments down the pipeline, which will be lighting and so on. Now, in order to do this, we have to create all these assets. So modeling can't work without art, and art creates designs for the modeling department to get working on. So they have this reference, and then from there are, you know, we explore a bit in 3D as well, but generally everything is taken exactly from art department. Now, everything you see in the film, from the ground to the ceiling to the windows to the cars, everything has to be modeled. It has to be created by someone in the modeling department. So there are a frightening amount of assets that have to be made for a project like this. As you can see, everything has to be designed and then built. And what we do at the Academy as well is that we use what's called a USD pipeline. For the technical people out there, you might know what I'm talking about, but basically that means is that each one of these assets has to exist individually in the pipeline, then it is brought in by assembly, rather than just having a big Maya file with everything in it. Because that's you can work quickly that way, but it's a very dangerous way of working. And so industry works in a different process in that every single asset is individually referenced, and so anything can be updated at a base level and ripple through every shot in the film. But modeling will model not just characters, modeling models environment, props, you know, vehicles, you name it. There is a lot to do, and we have some modelers that come through and they just want to model characters, and we have other people who just don't want to see a character ever, and they're more interested in background environment work, and other people who want to model just what you call sort of like hard surface models, like cars and buildings and things like that. So in each one of these departments that we're talking about today, there is area and range for specialization. So what I might mention as we go through, actually, I didn't mention this in the earlier ones. If you do want to apply for us in one of these departments, I might start talking a little bit about what we'll be looking for. For art department, of course, we're looking for a good eye, a good sense of color. and a good sense of the fundamentals of art. Nowadays, a lot of people in art department come from a digital background rather than a traditional background. So it's still important that we know that those artists can have those traditional skills. Naimini, you applied to us just with a art portfolio, is that right?
Yeah, my portfolio was mostly 2D, and then because I had 0 3D experience. And then I think I did like one Maya tutorial on YouTube and put that in my portfolio as well. But then everything else was like just art. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? You know, I'm going to talk Naimini up here. Naimini had a really good eye for color. And we saw that from the beginning, which is why we asked her to come across to lighting, because having those fundamental skills and a good eye for color really works, because it's not about the software. The software can be taught, but having that sort of that understanding of how color works, how light works is really good and can be translated into 3D. So for people interested in art, you know, we're just looking for those understanding of those fundamentals. For people interested in modeling, you know, would like to see a few things that you've created. Now, what we're generally looking for modeling is nice topology, as you can see kind of here, things that are clean. I know that everybody loves to use ZBrush, but that's really not used in a sort of production pipeline. It's used kind of maybe in pre-production for creating a sculpt or a sketch or an idea. But in terms of the assets themselves on a production pipeline and a main studio, everything is pushing through Maya like this. And so the topology has to be clean, and you know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but what we're looking for is potential. So you hear me saying that a bit tonight, is that it's really about showing potential, because you know, if you're that good, then you wouldn't need us, and we want to help you achieve that goal. So variety is good, and just getting a sense that you understand how topology works, and how to keep it clean without having a small asset that has like a million sort of polys on it as well. Okay, let's move on. Next is rigging. Now, rigging is where we add the bones and the skeleton to our characters, but it's not just characters, it's to props as well, to the cars, to anything that the character is moving or holding. So if anything moves at all, it ceases to become environment, it becomes a prop, and therefore it has to be rigged. Our character rig is obviously the one that most people know about, and that gives us all these circles and everything that you can see is what we give to the animators to animate. If you are slightly interested in rigging, please do apply. We're always short on rigging every year, and it is one department that you know, the industry is desperate for as well. And I would love to get more than a couple of people in the rigging department next year, because there is so much to do every time, and I always feel sorry for the rigging artists because they've got so much on their plate to get through. But it's a really, rigging is a great, like effects, I feel rigging is that great kind of blend of creativity and technical. It really kind of can appeal to people who want to do, who are interested in sort of animation, but also interested in getting under the hood and making things work and move. You're working with the modeling department in creating blend shapes, and you're working in creating kind of characters and assets that can just move beautifully. And there's a real art in that, and there's also real technology in that to make that work well. And you also have to have an understanding of, yes, it can work behind the scenes, and it can deform well, but can the animators use it? Are the controls intuitive? Are they easy to work, use, and animate? So there's a lot of things to consider when creating a good character rig. And every year, look, we try something new every year in terms of what characters we're doing. This year, I don't want to give away too much actually, but we do have a character with multiple limbs. And it's a really kind of fun, exciting process to experiment with, pushing the limits of what we can do with our characters. But yes, we need a body rig, and there's a face rig and blend shapes, and you know, there's just you know, I would love to get a few more people next year if we can in rigging. But yes, you can see if anyone who is interested in joining us for this, I'd love to see anything that you've done. It could be as simple as rigging a hand, simple as rigging a foot. showing me the different controls on a foot with foot roll, different pivot points, things like that, or say an arm with a IK to an FK blend on it. It doesn't have to be a full finished production rig. You know, don't feel that you have to go to that extent. Again, I'm just looking for potential. And as with all of these, it's potential and a real desire to learn and an excitement for kind of this part of the industry. The riggers are one department that really stay in this department from the very beginning to the very end. There's so much to do. Some of our departments do have natural crossover. I can talk about that a bit as well, but one of them, an example being, say, modeling and surfacing, they work well together. Later on, we're going to talk about lighting and comp work well together. But rigging really is your rigging from the beginning to the end. All right, how are we going for time? We're pretty good. Okay, good. Surfacing, like I was just saying. Okay, so our models at the beginning of the pipeline look like this, these big gray forms, and we need to paint them. And there are different pieces of software nowadays that are being used to paint these. We've been using Substance, but we're hearing from industry now that they're moving a little bit over to Murray, and even more excitingly, Houdini as well. There's a lot that can be done in Houdini, and that is something I'll be talking about later as well in terms of what can be done and what we will be doing next year with Houdini. But for the moment, and what we did last year was Substance. So surfacing is where you take the grayscale 3D object and you paint it. So it's like basically Photoshop in 3D, if you can imagine that. You get brushes, you get textures, you can paint on splatters, you can paint the edges so they kind of look a little bit chipped and worn, and it's really, you know, it's quite fun. We have had 2D artists in the past who have tried out surfacing and said, no, this is for me. This is the direction I'm going to head in, because it is a really kind of fun experience to paint something up and see it come alive. This was our hot dog vendor cart, juice vendor cart from last year, which is great. I mean, yeah, it was just done so well. Naimani, did you try surfacing by any chance when we first started this whole part of the process?
Yeah, I was in surfacing for a few weeks because I had to fill a gap. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, it was, like you said, like Photoshop and 3D, and it was fun kind of making some like graphics. You can make graphics in Photoshop and then put them back into Substance, and you can hide little jokes or references in there.
Yeah, I think there's a few Easter eggs that the team put in last year, didn't they? There's a few people names and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, look, it's not just kind of this. Surfacing also includes obviously surfacing. Yeah, here we go. Like things like the cars, props, the characters, buildings, environments. There's more to surfacing than just these objects. You know, it's basically outside of the kind of sky. It's really the entire 3D world that is made has to be painted. So you get to kind of, you know, walk through this gray world and paint it with color. And surfacing is great because you're really thinking about the material. You know, is it glass? Is it shiny? Is it rough? Good surfacing artists, I know, could talk about this for hours because there's always a story in every asset. You know, you could, like, this is the first pass of this car, but then, you know, the surfacing artist would come along and say things like, all right, whose car is this? How long have they had it? Have they had kids? Are there food stains in the back of the car? You know, was there once kind of like broken window and it's now been taped up? You know, was there a flat tire? Did they just come back from the beach and so there's sand on the tires? Is one of the headlights not working because that got broken by something else? You know, there's all these different little elements that you can add to surfacing that tell a story. So every single asset can tell that story, and it just adds to the richness of the whole film, because you might not notice it, but you feel it. And then if at any time you're kind of looking in the background, you can see that, oh, look at that, there's a part of the couch in the background that's been patched up. I wonder what that was. Or there's a coffee stain there, or just these little things that give the assets a sense that they were lived with, rather than just being kind of fresh off the factory line. What have we got next? Animation. That's my background. I came from, I went through the whole animation pipeline as a junior to sort of like a mid and a senior, and to animation director. And this is sort of like my passion is animation. I love this part of the process. It is giving life to characters. It is the acting part of the film as well. So this is really where, you know, you bring the story to life outside of sort of, you know, the camera, of course, but you're just working, as you can see here, we're working with just a grayscale object because we're not concerned about light. We're not concerned about surfacing. There's nothing else apart from motion. It's motion and the acting of the characters. Animation has, like many of these other departments, animation has a lot of application in different parts of the industry. So it can be in film, it can be in TV, it can be in computer games. Like in modeling, if you create a car, it doesn't really matter so much where it's going. If you're animating, you can animate in one area or the other area. It's still applicable in all, because those fundamentals are used across all those different industries. We in the MAV, short films are generally around the kind of 3.5 to 4 minute mark. And we like to, I like to get the animators to work on shots in sequence. I'm just going to go back. Sorry, that was jumping the gun. Like you would on a film. So you get a whole bunch of shots together in a row, so you can really get the continuity and the flow of what the characters are doing. We work at a sort of, at a kind of standard, a bit slower than studio speed, just so we can get everyone the time to get used to the process. But in animation, we start with blocking, and we block out the entire film first. So we don't kind of concentrate on one shot and wait and get it up till it's finished. We rough oops, sorry, that's my dog. We rough everything out. So we've got a working block of the entire short film in blocking. So again, that gives us an idea of what we're doing. Is the pacing going well? Is the timing going well? In Previs, we might have a character moving from screen left to screen right. And this is actually a good example. In this shot in Previs, the character was just kind of sliding across the frame. When we got to animation, we realized, oh, wow, she can't walk that fast. She has to run. So we had to extend the whole duration of the shot to allow her time to walk across the screen in a natural way. So animation can change the edit. It can change the kind of framing of shots as well, depending on what the character is doing. But really, animation, it's bringing things to life. It's bringing the story to life. So for anyone who's interested in animation, again, all I'm looking for here is potential. It could be as simple as a bouncing ball test, just to get an idea that you understand those fundamentals of timing, of weight and mass, that physics is right. Again, there are lots of free rigs out there. A simple walk cycle is more than enough. So if you just wanted to kind of animate a walk cycle, do a bouncing ball test, that's fine. It doesn't have to be rendered. It doesn't have to be surfaced. It doesn't have to be in a cool environment. You can forget all of that. It can just be the character by itself. It can be the ball by itself, because really all we're looking at is the motion. Okay, so it's simply just potential. And of course, the desire to animate. Animation, like rigging, like effects, pretty much demands 100% commitment. These are the sort of 3 departments that you can't really kind of dip in and dip out of, because the people are out there are dedicating all their time to it. So for animators, we're looking for people who are really passionate about this part of the industry. Okay, and that takes us to effects. So when you hear the word effects, the first thing that comes to most people's mind are explosions, smoke, and water. All the things that kind of special effects and effects artists do, all that fun stuff. Nowadays, though, effects is a lot more than that, primarily because Houdini can drive more than just making things explode. Yes, we do that. Yes, our students do get to have a lot of fun with smoke and water and what you would call the traditional effects. But nowadays, what we're looking at doing is incorporating a lot more of the pipeline into Houdini. And again, this is in response to what we're hearing from industry. in that there are other departments now are using Houdini to help push things through there, which is really, really exciting. So we're hearing, you know, Houdini is now being used in surfacing. It's being used in lighting. Actually, Naimani, are you using it at the moment in lighting?
Nope.
No, you're not?
I don't know how to use Houdini.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Okay.
Should I be trying to learn that?
Are you happy you're trying to learn at the moment?
Oh no, should I be?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. From what we're hearing, it's been used across a whole lot of departments.
No, I didn't know that lighting was using Houdini.
Yeah. And surfacing as well. So there's, I mean, it's not just in the effects department. Yes, it can kind of make things explode, but it's also creating the environment. So, for example, the environment out the window was created procedurally in Houdini. Those buildings were generated using an algorithm, using kind of basic shapes, and then pulled together, added on windows, and everything was created procedurally in Houdini. These sculptures that you're looking at here, you can see the kind of the animated characters underneath them. So what we did in animation was that we animated these characters, then we gave the characters to the effects artist, and they built you know, the sculpture around them. They built the metal and they built the wood to conform and fit to the shape of those characters. Then we hid the characters, and what you're left with were these dancing sculptures that move in the same way as those characters do. Now, what we usually do with the MAV is that we say we're not a learn to animate course, we're not a learn to kind of, you know, model course, because we need people to come to us with a set of skills. But with Houdini, now we're making an exception because it is becoming such a big part of the industry, and Houdini isn't taught basically anywhere really. It's quite a difficult program. So what we're saying now is that if you have any interest at all in effects, it doesn't have to just be making things blow up. It could be making environments. It could be making kind of procedural cities. It could be using it for lighting or for surfacing. Please do join us, because we are now incorporating Learn Houdini as part of our basic MAV. So you don't have to come to us with any of that background experience or knowledge in Houdini. You can come to us just with a passion to learn it. And this will be a new part starting next year, a new part of our course, which is a Learn Houdini stream for those students and artists who want to do that. It's really exciting. And again, it's looking how we're adapting and changing every year to adapt to industry's needs. And I think it's just a great part of the process. And there's just so much you can do with it now. It's really exciting. Okay, environments. Environments is a bit of a catch-all nowadays, because environments does include everything from building the environment in you know, in assembly to map painting. So, and also there's a lot of comp in environments as well. So for an example, let me see, do I have anything here? So this whole shot that we have here, the city was built in Houdini, but everything you can see behind these kind of big buildings here is a map painting. So that was done in environment. So environment painted these buildings in the background, then environment kind of worked on a sky dome to have the sky change different colors. Then Houdini came up with some clouds, which we gave back to environments as well. So it's really pulling together and building a lot of assets that work in 3D. And it used to just be map painting. So it used to just be Photoshop. And, you know, you would stick some Photoshop cards in the background. But now there's a lot of Nuke involved, because what we're doing now is creating like simple geometry and then projecting these map paintings, these images onto the geometry so they work in 3D. So when we have a camera move and it's a rotational camera move, there's parallax and there's depth to the environment. It's not just a flat card. So it's kind of environment now is developed a bit more. When you see those kind of shots of you know, if you've seen on YouTube and you've seen those shots of people on a green screen from a Marvel movie and they're jumping around and the camera's moving around them, you can see how dynamic the camera is and how it wouldn't work if it was just a single flat plane. So that's where environments come in, and they help take what's needed, paint it up, but then project it onto a 3D object or a 3D environment in order to make it work with that dynamic camera. So it's a bit of generalist skills now are being used in environments. It's pretty fun. So you do need to know a bit of Maya, you do need to know a bit of Nuke as well. Are you using some matte painting, you're photoshopping? It's kind of coming together with all those different sort of skill sets to make this kind of one final image. Naomi, were you working with environment on lighting for a part?
Yeah, the lighters worked pretty closely with the matte painters because we have to incorporate the background assets. And yeah, I think in this shot, for example, all the buildings in the background were like 3D geometry that was brought in for us and we had to render out. Yeah.
Yeah, great. I mean, it worked so successfully, this shot, I thought. It really kind of, it's, when you all see this later on, you'll know what I'm talking about. I know it just looks like it's a single shot, but there's some really fun things happening once this gets moving. I won't give it away, but it was a very, very technically difficult shot, this one, and it involved a lot of work with a lot of people, but it was beautiful. It worked really well. Yeah, as you can see as well, it's everything. It's helping create the atmosphere and the environment that the characters live in. Lighting. Naomi, do you want to take this one? Do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, sure.
What do you do in lighting? What's lighting about?
Basically, we create the mood and the colors of the film using light. It's like painting with light, as people might say. Yeah, because without lighting, it'd just be black. So we have to think about, direction of light and where the light source is coming from. Depends if it's daytime or nighttime. There's like practical lights, so lights from lamps and windows and stuff like that. And then if it's daytime, then you have to consider the sun direction. But overall, it's about kind of creating the final image. Well, besides comp, then there's like extra effects and stuff. But lighting is where it all comes together and we make a pretty picture.
Absolutely. Look, I think that's the important part, right? It is where everything comes together, right? So all the hard work from everyone ends up in lighting. That's where you hit render and you get this image, and you've got the final animation, the final surfacing, and the final camera and assets and models, and it's all together finally in one kind of place. And then it's hit render and we've got that image. But like Naomi said, there's lighting nowadays is it's really kind of, it's getting better and better from the software that it used to be. So having an understanding of kind of how light works really helps. And also, the mood, like Naomi said, the mood of the shot is really what you're trying to get across. For people who are, interested in lighting, you don't have to necessarily have lighting on your reel because, it is something that is quite hard to kind of develop on your own. It does help, but, Naomi here came to us with a 2D art portfolio, but she did show an understanding of color and light and everything as well, which we saw that potential in her. It doesn't have to be lighting either in Maya. It can be, if you do want to show us some lighting, it can be in an Unreal, it can be in Blender. It's if that is something that interests you. But really, there's just, it's so satisfying seeing things come through lighting. It's I mean, what do you think, Naomi? Are you doing any sort of technical parts at the moment, or is it all pretty much just creative?
Well, I lean more towards the creative side. That's what I like. But yeah, there are definitely technical challenges, but we always have like leads and stuff to help us with those technical stuff. But yeah, if you like more creative stuff, lighting might be for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, so we have I'm just going to show you. So the difference between these two shots, we wanted the daytime shots to be really warm and these nighttime shots to kind of contrast with the cold light. And it really came across well. And you can see how that worked with the environment in the background as well. The matte painting in the background had to reflect that too. So we created a different matte painting for the buildings and for the sky for all of these shots as well, just so that came through in both of these two environments. Okay, after lighting is comp. Oh, we are giving away this shot. There we go. All right. As you can see, this was quite a technical shot to do. Now, comp is, so comp is basically where all the different layers from lighting come together. So if you think about Photoshop, if you can create layers in Photoshop, then comp is Photoshop on a timeline, so to speak. And this is where you can fix and change different elements that are brought in. So when you can add, you add snow over the top and clouds, and you're getting elements not just from lighting, but you're getting elements from effects, you're getting elements from the art department. There might be kind of some other things that have to be fixed in the background. Oh no, there's a building that's pink, let's fix that. So when you hear that phrase, let's fix it in comp, this is the department. So apart from, like Naomi said, apart from lighting, this is really where the final kind of pass happens. But it is great at the Academy, we'd like to have all lighters comp their own shots, because we think it's a really good skill to have. It's necessary for lighters to know nuke and to understand how their shots pass on down the pipeline. So Naomi, you comped your shots for apart, didn't you?
Yeah, we all comped our own lighting shots. Yeah, and I do that at Animal as well now as well.
Oh, great.
We comp our own lighting shots.
Fantastic. Okay, and you're doing that in Nuke as well?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Oh, that's good to hear, because it used to just sort of like pass off to other departments, but I'm glad that they're getting people just to do that. So there you go. It shows how necessary it is for lighters to understand that. So the industry standard at the moment for compositing is Nuke. There's really not many other options at this same level that can be used for compositing. But comp doesn't just, it's not just for kind of building these layers. You can use comp in visual effects and live action movies, in fixing things in the background. It's used in advertising. There is a whole range of areas nowadays that Nuke is used for. So like Houdini, if you have those Nuke skills, you'll find that there's many opportunities out there in industry that you could be called upon to use your skills on. It's not just for sort of, layering together lighting shots. More or less every kind of green screen shot is eventually pushed through Nuke as well. Great, all right. Technical directing. All right, so for any of you who are comp sci students, please come and join us. This is another department that we have a big lack of and that we would really, really love to get more people in. We're trying to get the word out there for the programmers, for the comp sci students who are just kind of think they have to go into IT or into those kind of more standard traditional pathways, whereas you might not know, but if you have come from a programming background, or if you've done your computer science degree, you can go work on a Marvel movie, or you can go work at Animal Logic and these kind of work on films, because every single tool and every single kind of program that we've shown you tonight needs tech help. It needs plugins. It needs kind of little scripts for the animators to use and for the artists to use to help them do their work. It's also working on the pipeline, helping assets move through the 3D pipeline. So as you can see here, everything has to travel along this kind of process. So if we create a model and that asset is made in 3D, then it has to be passed to surfacing, but then it also has to be passed to rigging. Okay, so how does the same thing pass to two departments at the same time? What happens after that? Does it go back to modeling, or does it go over to another department? All these things are happening at the same time with multiple assets and multiple people. Every single one of these departments along the pipeline need their own personal help. So there's a role in production in the industry called a TD. So you can be an animation TD, you can be a rigging TD, you can be a lighting TD. So really there's someone who sits in the department and helps tech fix problems. They're such a necessary part of the industry, and we never get enough of these students in. If you are interested, please do apply. What we're looking for here again is a love of the technical, some coding skills as well. There is more information about this on our website. So please do go and take a look at it. But I really do encourage you to think of the film industry as another pathway to use your tech skills. Yes, Python is a big part of it as well, but it's not just that too. There's if you are in animation, you're probably mostly working in Mel, but also, you know, there's Python as well for the plugins too. But it's really helping every department deliver what they need to deliver. So underneath all of these departments, there's just a whole horde of technical people making sure it's done and delivered on time. Now I can see that we're almost running up to time, so I'm going to run through the last few slides here a little bit quicker. Production coordination is another department that is necessary. So coordinators are the ones who help every department do what they need to do. So they're the ones who help not just take notes, but help the communication, help things deliver from one to the other. They help manage the artists, they help manage the assets. They work with the supervisors and the leads. They're the people. They're the ones who kind of, you know, help motivate people, help things happen. They're working in a piece of software called ShopGrid, which again is the industry standard. And again, look, if you've got a love for sort of organization, you know, if you're an Excel nerd, then please do join us. But, you know, you also need to love people and communication and talking as well, because energy and vibrancy is kind of what we're looking at for anyone who wants to join production. Okay. Wow, we've got a few minutes left here at the end, and we're going to, just before we do, we will be cutting off at 6:30. So I'm going to see if I can grab a couple of questions there. So just looking at the chat now, are there any questions, anyone that you can chuck to the top of the chat for me by any chance? If not, we can, here we go, Q&A. Could the application process be quickly explained? Yes, really good question. So if you go to our website, there's a whole lot of detail there, but basically what we ask for you to do is there's an application form, goes through UTS. You have to apply by submitting a portfolio and or a reel, a one-page kind of, you know, synopsis of yourself, you know, one page of what you want to do, who you are and why. What we're looking for there is your passion for and your interest, and ideally, well, not ideally, really, to indicate what area you want to specialize in. After that, pretty much is then in showing us what you have studied. Now, one more thing to quickly mention: there are scholarships available for domestic students. They are happening again for next year. The Animal Logic Scholarship. There are up to 2 recipients of up to $18,000 each to help with living and study expenses. And for international students, there's a postgraduate coursework scholarship available and grant, which covers about 20 to 35% of the course fees. That's it, everyone. We will be wrapping this up now. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Now, if you do go to our website, you can ask more questions, and you can even book a one-on-one with myself or one of the other leads if you'd like to ask a little bit more about your interest and what you want to do. So thanks, everyone. Naimani, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. Bye, everyone. Just do it. I thought, well, when I applied, I thought like, oh, you know, I wouldn't be able to get in because I didn't have any 3D background, but I went to one of these webinars and it convinced me to apply. So I encourage everyone here to apply as well.
Great one. Thanks, Naimani. And look, good luck with your work. Keep going.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night. And please do join us for the world premiere of A Part coming up right now. Thanks.